Today, I'm going to share another fun way that I use my painted mixed media papers. This technique is so easy, you'll want to do it with friends or even your grandkids. And the results are so cool, you'll want to do this all the time. I'm Jackie Bernardi, and welcome to my studio. This season, I've been creating a series of videos that answers the question, what do I do with all my painted mixed media papers? I've linked to the entire series in the description, and this is video maybe number 4 or 5 in the series. And today's technique is just a blast. What I'm doing here is just outlining this shape on a piece of just chipboard is what I have here. And these shapes are actually, this came in packaging for some stemless wine glasses I bought about a year ago from Crate and Barrel. And this packaging I just loved. I knew I wanted to use the shape for something someday, so I saved it. And as I've been packing up the studio to do a remodel, I ran across this packaging and I thought, okay, today's the day that I'm going to do something with it. What you saw was me outlining the packaging with a permanent marker. And now I'm just taking some scraps of paper that I found throughout the studio, and I am going to make a collage on this chipboard on the reverse side of where I just outlined those shapes. And I'm using gloss medium here because a lot of the papers I'm using today happen to be papers that will go transparent or translucent once I put them down. And that's why I want to use the gloss medium. As we've learned in so many other videos, which I will link to in the description below, when you use gloss medium with certain papers and some water, you can make the papers go translucent or transparent in some cases. Just to make sure that I can do that while I'm doing this, I'm just choosing to use gloss medium. So all I'm doing to get this started is moved around the gloss medium so it's pretty much all over the chipboard. I'm just tearing off little pieces of these painted mixed media papers that I have, and I am just putting down in random patterns. I am not really concerned about what colors are next to one another. I'm not really concerned about what colors are in this at all at this point. All I want to do is cover this entire side of the chipboard with these painted papers. Now, some of these papers I hand painted. Some of these papers I used the gel plate, and some of these papers were marbling or suminagashi. And it's just plain fun to put these down. When you don't have to worry about the outcome, believe me, all of this gets so much easier. So if you've been nervous to do collage, trust me when I tell you this is the collage to start with because you can't do it wrong. So I'm just going in, putting in more pieces. As I mentioned earlier, some of these papers will go transparent. And so when I place them over other pieces of paper, you'll be able to see down through, like this piece here, except this one got a little bunched up, so I have to fix that. I'm applying the paper with gloss medium, and the tool I'm using is a catalyst wedge, and I just love to use catalyst wedge for collage because I think it does a beautiful job of smoothing out the paper so that it doesn't wrinkle. And if you've done any type of collage in your life, you may have run across the paper wrinkling, and it can be so frustrating. Now, on a collage like this one, even if the paper did wrinkle, it probably wouldn't matter much. But as a general practice, I like to use the catalyst wedge because I get such an amazing result from it. So again, I am just hopping along, putting down these pieces. I would say that I grabbed maybe 10 or 15 papers here. It's not an awful lot of papers. It may sound like it, but truly I have thousands of papers in my studio. So just grabbing this little bunch was enough. But what I wanted to say about this is if you're thinking that I was intentional about choosing the colors I chose or the papers I chose, I was not. I literally just put my hands in this giant bin of painted papers that I have and pulled them out and put them on the table. And I just said to myself, whatever paper is in here, I will use. And so you will see some odd combinations. There is a piece of paper in here that was made with really earthy tone paints like quinacridone nickel azo gold and Van Dyke brown. And you're going to see it right up against a piece of really brightly colored marbleized paper or the hot pinks that you see in here. And what I need you to do is trust me on this. You can use any papers you have for this exercise, and it's going to look great at the end. It truly will. Just collage small pieces together, have a flow. Don't keep adding new papers other than all the papers that you started with. Meaning, if you start with 5 papers, only use the 5 papers. If you start with 15 papers, only use those 15 papers, but use them all, but only use those. Don't go and try to find something to add in later. It will actually take away from the fun of this, but also you don't need to do it. You don't need to make this perfect, and we're going to see that very quickly. Several months ago, I made a video about what to do on days when you're not feeling particularly inspired in the studio. And I showed you a lot of different ways to be in your space and still feel somewhat creative but not doing big things. This is the perfect type of collage project to do on days like that. You could make sheet after sheet after sheet of this type of collage and use it later on for a background for something, or you can use it exactly like we're going to use it today. Now, before I jump over to how we're using it, I want to make sure that you can see I have made sure that these collage papers go to every single edge of this chipboard. And that's the reason why I'm actually doing this on top of my art journal, is just to make sure that all the papers go all the way to the edge and that they're glued down securely. And then I can just peel it right off of my sketchbook and take a look. So this is going to need to dry for, I'd say, a few hours anyway. I used an awful lot of medium while gluing down the papers. And so I'm going to put it to the side and let it dry. And so here it is dried. I waited about 3 hours. And you can see it's very glossy. If you don't like a glossy finish, that's just fine. At this point, you can go over it with a matte medium or even an ultra matte medium. It will not take away from the transparency of the papers that have already been collaged on. It will just take the shine off. So that's a little pro tip for you there. All right, so you can see I've got all these different papers and I've got these layers and layers of translucent papers and transparent papers. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out the shapes. And these are just my favorite scissors. They're Friskers, and they're actually great if you have arthritis in your hands. I do not, but I don't want to get arthritis in my hands either. So I'm just starting early with these shears. But regardless, I'm going to go around and I'm going to cut out all 4 of these shapes. And what I enjoy about doing this technique this way, meaning drawing the pattern on the back of the paper first, then going ahead on the other side and creating a collage, and then coming back over and cutting it out, is I don't know exactly what any one of these shapes will look like. Right. So I love this. It's a lot of different colors. It's exciting. It's fun. And we'll see how the other 4 look once they're cut out. But I'll tell you, as I was doing this, I was thinking about what I want to use these shapes for. And at first, I was looking at it really literally, like, okay, this is a stemless wine glass. And I'm planning on having a few of my girlfriends over at the end of the summer for an end of summer cocktail party. And I thought that these shapes would make a perfect little invitation. And so I think I'm going to make invitations out of them. But as we go on, I get some other ideas as well. So what I love about each one is it is a unique piece of art once you cut it out, right? No 2 are going to be exactly the same. They can't possibly be because of the way that I collage them. This is what I love about it and why it's so exciting. Now, you could use any shape. I had this template for a shape for ages. You could make butterflies, you could make a peace sign, you could make a fish if you wanted. And in fact, I have over in my free membership community, I have posted just this morning a bunch of shapes that you can download to do this type of project with. So if you're not a member of my free resources community yet, get over there. The link is in the description and it's actually also in the comments. Go ahead, sign up for my free resources. You'll get all the free resources. You'll also be a member in my free resource membership, which is awesome. What I'm doing here is I'm auditioning how these might work on an invitation. And so all I did was take a piece of mixed media paper and folded it over to give me an idea. I am not making a finished invitation today. I would rather use watercolor paper or cardstock even to make the final invitation. But what I'm doing here with you is I'm auditioning different ideas for it. So that's just a little piece of mesh ribbon that I have. I thought that might look interesting behind the shape. And, one thing I'm noticing for sure is it's very white. And for the actual invitations that I make, I think what I wanna do is just send one quote unquote wine glass on each invitation instead of having multiples, right? And as I'm looking at it, the white is so bright. I know I want to do something in the background. And if you've ever wondered why I'm always creating backgrounds and then not doing anything with them, it's not that I'm not doing anything with them. It's just I'm going to use them for reference. So this little one here, that little background that I did, God, a couple months ago, I'll link to that video. I think that would be the perfect background for these little wine glasses for the invitation. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with it. So I'm hoping by the time the remodel's over, I have these invitations ready and I can show you the final product. But for right now, this is what I did. You can see even your grandkids can do this with you. It's so much fun. And I really encourage you to use up your papers in creative ways. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. This is what I would watch next.